Ask yourself, would I hire this person again? If I was to do it all over again, would I hire them again? If your answer is no, you've kept them too long. Period. It doesn't matter who it is in your team. You've kept them too long. Now, you've kept them too long. Your gut told you shouldn't have. You wouldn't have hired this person if you were to do it all over again. Like, why are they there?
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Cultureproof Podcast. If you are new here, welcome to the community. Note that we drop a new episode. Try to do it once a month, just depending on what the schedule is. And this podcast is built for leaders. It's built for owners. And it's built for operators who are in the service industry, who really care deeply about building teams, building a culture, and really building businesses that will survive without you as the owner or as the leader at the helm of everything. The heart behind this show is really, really simple. I see far too many businesses that break, not because of a lack of opportunity, but really because of people problems, misaligned leadership, misaligned visions, and really just a lack of clarity around who in the business should be doing what. So if you find value in the episode today, it would mean the world to me if you could do me a favor and share this with a leader, share it with another business owner, or share it with somebody maybe on your team who just needs to hear it, because that's how this message is going to spread. So today's conversation, it's with a great friend of mine, and it's really all about first who, then what, or as what we titled the episode, the right person, right people, right seat, and really how people are wired differently. Really why not everybody wants to be a leader, and how putting the right people in the right seats can truly change every single thing about your business. And I am super fired up about this one because I get to have my friend Brandon Vaughn as a guest today. And so I just want to introduce him. We're going to dive in, and I'm telling you guys are in for a real treat today. So my friend Brandon, a little bit about him. Brandon is a serial entrepreneur that is known for building systems. He's like the systems guru, in my opinion. We were just having a conversation about how he is launching a business like 9 states away from where he's at right now, and he's doing it all remote. So talk about systems. He's known for building teams, great cultures. He was the founder of Conquer, which is actually how I met him, which for those of you that don't know, Conquer was a systems-driven platform that kind of provided leadership frameworks, processes, and it was really a community of professional home service and landscape business owners that was designed to help them with their systems, give them coaching and all that. Conquer helped over 20,000+ business owners. Brandon can jump in if I was wrong on that, but Conquer served over 20,000 business owners before they were acquired by House Call Pro. Brandon is also the founder of a little company called Wise Coatings. You're probably seeing their vans all over your town, or their signs everywhere, which is a rapidly growing coatings business. And he also is the founder of HireBus. You guys have heard me talk about HireBus a lot. We'll dive into that a little bit today, which HireBus is a recruiting and workforce solution that's kind of designed to really help put the right people in the right seats. But for me personally, what I love most about Brandon is at his core, he's a great dad. He's a great husband to his beautiful wife, Terza. But he is also a people-first leader who really believes, correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, when we dive in, that businesses don't just scale because you work hard. We get it. Everybody works hard. But businesses scale when leaders build the right systems and empower the right people to run them. Without further ado, Brandon, welcome to the Cultureproof Podcast, my brother.
Dude, thank you so much. First of all, for the amazing introduction. And then I'm so glad that you put in the thing that I'm actually most proud of. You know, the other things with the business is it's cool. It sounds nice on the sizzle reel, but I love that you included the great dad part. I think that's my favorite accolade that you shared so far. That means a lot to me. I'm
when we
proud to
were,
know you and proud to have you on. Proud that you brought me on your show too. Thank you.
dude, it's truly an honor. When I was putting together this now, I believe this is the 15th or 16th episode, I made a list of all the people that I said they got to be a guest on here sometime. And Brandon Vaughn was at the top of that list. So I'm glad that we finally carved time out on the schedule and to make it happen. And I meant everything that I said there. That was probably one of my favorite things about you was just that maybe it was at one of the Conquer Summits or somewhere at some type of event that I saw you would be like, you would disappear. And then I would run into you somewhere, and your kids and Terza would be with you, and it was awesome. Not just how you lead your family, but dude, I mean, there's something powerful. I've literally bragged this up to my wife. I love just how Terza just supports you, and like she's like an assistant, but you're leading, she's managing, she's leading, you're managing. Like you guys make it work, and truly it shows with the success that it's been said that behind every successful business is a supportive spouse, and we both have that. So to have that, you can see how that is manifesting itself into what we do every day. And I'm a firm believer that our businesses are tools to provide the lives that we want for our families. So I meant every word I said, man, and I'm truly glad to have you here. And on that note, I want to dive right in. One of the things that I will say, for those of you that may or may not know, you've heard me talk about Conquer here on the episodes before, and I was honored to be a Conquer coach, which is like I said, where I met Brandon. And one of the things that I will say about being a part of the Conquer team was just the people that you had on your team, between the admin, between the fellow coaches. I mean, you truly do have a God-given talent and an attraction about you that really just wants to bring great people into your organization. So like between, the admin side, how they would help support us with the pros that were part of Conquer. And I mean, it was top notch. And the few years that I had the honor and privilege of being a part of it, like I got to see so many different things that I was able to. Obviously we were coaching pros to make their businesses better, but I was learning just as much, throughout that, just seeing the way that you operated and the autonomy that you gave to your team. So truly, you are the right person for this episode, about the right people in the right seats, because this I could almost dedicate this entire year of episodes just being about people, because you hear everybody talks about processes, and the last episode that I released was actually called, people first, then processes. And I think all too often we get that first. We want to build out these systems first, which is important, but none of that really matters if you don't have good people to take the ball and run with it, if that makes sense. So when I was, thinking of the right guest for this episode, you were the guy that came to that. And so on that note, I want to dive in and just.
Well, thank you. First of all, I mean, I gotta get in a thank you. You keep dropping these compliments left and right. So I mean, I gotta catch up.
I'll pause. Please carry on. I'm just kidding.
I appreciate it, Sam. I really do. And getting the right people on the team has been something that has taken me years to kind of understand the importance of it. So the fact that it's acknowledged, it's seen, especially with someone like yourself, that you also are a great father. It's one of the things that instantly made me wanting to bring you onto our team and work together, was because our core values are aligned. I think just making sure that you find people where they're aligned with your core values is such a critical part. It's not by chance. It's by design, and your message that you put out there attracts the right people in. So it's no coincidence that a lot of the people that not only were pros in Conquer, but also coaches in Conquer, were faith-based, family first, servant to heart. Like literally, those are our core values that we had for Conquer. So those do make a difference.
A huge difference. And man, we could probably talk about we could probably do a whole episode on values alignment and people alignment, but maybe that'll be a future episode that we can share. But no, and I appreciate your kind words there too. And I've heard that even from attracting people to join, at the Atlas team or on the Atlas team is people say like, man, I've been following your journey for a long time. And obviously, we do what we do to serve our families. And I think that, like you said, when those values are aligned, like great people want to be a part of that. And I think all too often, so many pros miss that. So one of the things that I see, not just at Atlas, but in almost every company that I've had the privilege and honor to coach, is that we try to take good people. Like, let's just say that we have figured out the art of recruiting. We've got the branding. With the branding, we figured out how to recruit people. And then from there, we bring them into our business, and then we try to cram these great people into the wrong role. We take the person, they match our values, they're growth minded, but then we want to call it a performance issue. It's really, really easy to think like, man, they had me fooled when I interviewed them, but then they got in, and they're not hitting their mark, and we want to just call it a performance issue. So I want to start and just dive right into questions. When you think about the right people in the right seats, in your opinion, what do you think are some of the most common mismatches that you see, like in service companies or even in landscape companies or electrical companies? It doesn't matter. But what do you typically see are the most common mismatches in the businesses that you've worked with or that you've built?
I think there's two fatal flaws that a lot of service businesses make. The first flaw is, I really, really like this person. I don't really quite know exactly where I need you, but I just need them. I need them on our team. I have an opening over here, so let me shove them into here. Or, boy, they're really close for this role, but they also could do partly over, some of this, and they could also do some of this. And so, now I'm going to try to fit this person, and I'm going to try to squeeze them into a role opening or something that I have. Whereas the reality needs to be, I have an org chart designed. I have really specific KPIs, roles, descriptions, responsibilities, what that person needs to do in order for the business department to function very, very well. And now I'm going to go out and I'm going to find the best person that is specifically geared for that role. And I want to place that person inside of that role. The other flaw that people make is, I need an operations manager, I need a production manager, I need a salesperson. I got this really good technician though that I really like, and he does a good job out in the field. Customers love him. I am going to promote him into this operations manager, and now all the rest of the employees are going to direct report up to this guy. But he has no experience. He's never been a manager before. He's never had direct reports before, or he's never been a professional salesperson. And so now what happens when you make those moves, sometimes those moves can work out okay. There's definitely edge cases where that's worked out okay. But as a whole, all it creates is more burden upon the owner to have to train and coach every single one of these roles that you've moved people into. And now you are the smartest person in your company because you have to train every single written, every role and responsibility and things to this person that has no experience doing it. But the right way to be able to scale, that's taking me a long time to understand, especially when you want to move fast, is to really have a clear idea of what this person needs to look like first in this role, and then strategically and very specifically go out and find this person. And then you bring them in and you want them to be good enough in this role that they actually tell you what to do in a lot of cases. They're better at operations than you. They're better at sales than you. And it doesn't create this big, heavy training and coaching burden upon you as the owner, to where you're like, why isn't this person performing very well? Well, oftentimes it's, you as a training bottleneck, and you kind of set yourself up to fail in that way because you created a project that you now have to manage and train.
I've said this on probably every episode, but if maybe not every episode, from many, many stages when people have said, Sam, what is your biggest business lesson or leadership lesson that you could share? And it used to be simple things like know your ideal client, or, make sure you've got a recruiting plan, whatever. Like, it could be have a training plan in place. all very, very important things. But I finally, one day, and it was probably through the realization that I had made the mistake enough and I'm still paying for past sins, but it was truly putting people into leadership roles that never should have been there, regardless. But then my second biggest lesson was keeping them there, thinking that over time they're going to get better, including putting people into leadership roles, because the problem is it's we work with the best thing we got at the time. And if somebody will just you've heard me talk before about leading from the middle, where people are really good at leading up, where they'll be the like they'll take what we want and they'll get it done, but then they don't know how to grow and develop people. And so, man, like, understanding the difference between people who are just there because they want a paycheck, but then we're like, you're really, really good at getting the work done. Let's put a leadership title on you and move you up, and you know what? We've all done it. There's people listening to this right now that are like, I'm leading through that season of life right now. Well, guess what? You're in the right place to learn to hopefully grow past that today. So for you, Brandon, how do you think about people in your businesses, or what you've seen from coaching thousands of entrepreneurs or pros throughout the days? How do you think about people that are paycheck people versus mission people? And how do you, and I'll kind of set some framework for this real quick before I finish the question, but a lot of people ask the question, how do I build a great culture? Like, how do I get my culture from being toxic to being, a culture of excellence, or building people of excellence? And kind of my response to that is, hey, set the expectations. Like, what do you want out of your people? Set the expectations and make them very, very clear, very, very concise. And when people are meeting them or exceeding them, bonus them, pay them better, promote them based on that. And when they're not, just hold them accountable to it. And the problem is we can either get one right and not the other, or vice versa. And so, thinking about that, when you're hiring people or coaching another pro, and you're thinking about people that are just there for a paycheck versus people that really, really want more out of life, how do you set the expectations so, one, the people that are just paycheck people can win, but also the people that want more out of life can win as well? How do you go about setting those expectations right out of the gate?
I think that you have to establish yourself as what kind of infrastructure do I want to put in my business that will allow people to be successful? And if you don't have a phenomenal training program, and by training program, I mean a documented way to get someone with little to no experience to be a subject matter expert in their particular discipline, then you're setting yourself up for a lot of failure. And it's very hard to move someone who's just very mission aligned with you and values aligned with you to get them into performance. There's a really powerful rubric or matrix that you can create where you basically draw a square, and then you cut it in half vertically, you cut it in half horizontally, and you make this 2x2 grid. And on the bottom axis underneath this, you can put in culture and values. And then on the other axis that goes up and down, you can put in their skills or their performance. And if you take a look at everyone inside of your company and you score them, and you have to place a dot somewhere in one of these four quadrants, you have to, physically draw in how skilled are they? How well do they perform in this role? And then how well do they fit our culture and our mission? How well do we do we trust them? Are they really aligned with us? Find people that are scoring in either of the left two sides. You really shouldn't accept them on your team at all. So it's important for them to be mission people. It's important for them to be, values people. You don't want to hire anyone in your company that doesn't fit your missions. So let's just establish that is a requirement of anyone to come into your company. Hold the standard high. We have core values. We have a mission. We have, we will not allow anyone to come in that doesn't fit those core values. That's why it's so important to have them. The next part of it then becomes, okay, how engaged, how skilled are they in that particular discipline, and how can I kind of train them up and to the right? And being able to have an ascension program, especially for some of your laborers or your, level 1 technicians, we'll call them.
I like that. Around here, we use the term apprentices or crew members, not laborers.
Labor's a horrible name. Don't call any of your employees. Actually, I was on a call with someone last week who we were looking to hire some people inside of his organization. And he, I was like, what's the job role? What do you want for the job? And he's like, laborer. And I'm like, can we please just not?
Swear word, dude. It's a
what kind of people do you really want showing up here to these jobs?
If somebody's willing to accept the title of laborer, how sad has their journey been where they're like, I just want to be a laborer. Like, you want to hire? There's another lesson for y'all.
What do you do for a living?
Want growth-minded people in your organization, if they put laborer on their application, no.
So making sure that you have a clear path for people. People say that they value jobs and they get their most amount of job fulfillment when their company set really clear expectations of what success looked like, and they wanted to invest in them. They felt like they had an impact. Their work made a difference. They weren't just a cog in the system. And there's just so many different ways that you can make that be an impact. But at the first and foremost step, you have to make sure that their core values and mission aligned.
Very simple. Should be everywhere. People think they're just a poster on the wall or a page hopefully in your employee handbook, but they're way, way deeper than that. And you have to be aligned. How many times have you heard a pro say, Brandon, I just want good people, or like, I'm from now on, that's it. I'm only hiring A players on my team. That's it. Only hiring A players. But then obviously that doesn't happen for them, or they wonder why when you can't just say it. But the thing that I want to touch on is how so many people, they can't even define what an A player looks like. They actually don't even know really what that means. So for you in either your past businesses, your present businesses, or in people that you're elevating up, what is your personal definition of what an A player looks like, and how do you define it by the seat that are in instead of just emotion on how you're feeling, say, on that day?
It has to be data driven. It has to be numbers and KPI driven. So I'll give you for instance, how would we define a really great salesperson? Would we just say like they're handsome and customers like them? They show up on time. Like, nothing that is subjective is how we're going to define a great salesperson. We'll define a great salesperson as they sell $5 million a year. Their closing rate is 50% or higher. They actually bring in their self-generated leads to company-generated leads ratio is 30%. We have a close rate of a certain amount. We have a NPS score for our customers, that comment on it. What about technicians? Well, we know what revenue per hour should look like. We know what gross margins should look like. We know what 5-star ratio number of jobs they should be getting. All of these numbers have to be KPI'd, key performance indicators. They have to be defined, and they have to be written out inside of your offer letter and your written job descriptions. We call them role blueprints for your specific employee. The reason why this is so critical is because on day one, if an employee shows up knowing that there is a specific non-gray, black and white area that is going to govern whether or not they're a great employee, there's no argument when performance reviews come up and they say, well, I'm your best guy. It's like, well, it says you, but not says the fact that you show up late every day to our thing. You no called twice last week. You took X amount of PTO, that was not approved. You got X amount of fix-its and callbacks. What's your fix-it and callback ratio against the jobs you've done? And it might feel like that dehumanizes the component of it, but wait until you see how happy it makes your employees when they know that there's an expectation that's set for them and they actually have something that they can strive for and meet. It's not this nebulous thing. All conflict is unmet expectation. If an employee has an expectation that success means this, and you have an expectation that's in your brain that success equals this, and those are misaligned, there's the conflict. There's the, I'm your best guy. No, you're not. Like it puts all that to bed, and it allows people to have something to work for and to understand that I'm in control of my own destiny. I'm in control of my own paycheck. I can actually make more money. And I'm a big fan of performance pay, by the way. That also kind of ties directly into this. But a definition of an A player, like I'm not hiring people that aren't a core value fit. So that's not my definition of an A player. That's a requirement to just get the job to start with. Now, here's the measurable things. And then good news is that we also want you to hit those metrics. So we're going to relentlessly train you to continually level up your own skill set to where you can be defined as an A player. Maybe you come in as a B minus. We have good systems and training processes to get you to an A player and what our standards are, not the standards that you had at your last job.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer in promoting from within. If you're looking to move up an ops manager, and I know a ton of people, a ton of listeners here in the Cultureproof community, they're looking to designate their first operations manager or their first project manager or fleet manager, whatever that is. And, they're like, so many people think, well, these people that work with me, if they didn't make the same mistakes that I made, which was promoting people that really should have never been in those seats to begin with, but they think they have to bring somebody in from the outside because all I have on my team are technicians. And when I put my first true ops manager in place many, many years ago, it wasn't because I had some special gift of putting the right people in the right seats, because I've screwed it up just as many times as I've gotten it right. But my very first person that I had put into that role, it was a no-brainer. At the end of each day, we had our group text. We only had probably 25 team members at the time, but this guy would jump in the group text and, hey, is there anybody that needs help? I just wrapped up my list. Like, hey, is there any of your equipment that's broke down? I'll stay tonight and fix it. And he was, in my opinion, like he's was my boy, and he's serves as our general manager in the company today. But back then, when we had put it out that, hey, I need to put somebody in the place to run one of our departments, he was the guy that I had selected for the job. And when I announced it that, hey, Tom is, he's going to be the new production manager, a lot of people on our team thought he already was. He had no title. He just was serving in the capacity without a title. And I wish all my promotions of people had went that well, but they didn't. Right. But that's a whole nother episode. But for you personally, for talking to the person, talking to the pro that wants to put their first, second in command in place, or whatever manager that is, what are like just some tangible indicators for you when you're looking to identify a leader within the organization, or somebody that like you see more in before they have the title?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm glad that you said something important, which is not all of them have been that way. Like this guy was a little bit of an anomaly. And that is actually the case with a lot of business owners that I see, where they have like their best tech or this guy that's like really hungry. And so they do promote them in there, and they don't have that same kind of experience. They have a bunch of people are like, why is he doing it? I don't understand. Like, really, this guy? And for me, there's several criteria that I kind of coach business owners to think about, very specific criteria before you promote someone to the position. One, all the things that you called out. So that desire to be, the hunger, but also the action. They're calling around, they're trying to serve other people, they're going above and beyond, they're doing that thing. That shows proactivity, that shows drive. That's very important in someone who's going to take ownership of this. The second thing that I look for is making sure that they are going to have freedom of speech, and they're going to be without reproach if they are going to tell all of their new direct reports to do the checklist every day, to clean out their vehicle every day, to wear their uniforms properly, to make sure and follow the company standards and processes that are in place. So the person that I'm going to even remotely consider for moving to that has to be the most compliant employee, following company SOPs and standards and processes, because no one will get called out a hypocrite faster than a tech that gets promoted up. And then now they're telling all of their, direct reports to, do their checklist and to wear their PPE on jobs. They'll be like, bro, you never did this when you were a technician. You're telling us to do this? Like, it looks bad. It's not a good fit. And then the third thing that I really think is critical is that they possess the ability to be able to recreate high performers just like them. I will not promote anyone into a manager position, a leadership position, unless they possess the ability to be able to train other lead technicians in their place. So someone has to be replaceable. I'm not going to promote someone who's the best, my best guy, if they have zero ability to create other best guys. They have to be good trainers. They have to be patient. They have to be able to coach their new direct reports. They have to serve them. And if they possess the ability to be able to get other people to that high standard that they performed at, then I would consider them for a leadership position. And I would also be doing it with the caveat that I know personally as the owner, I'm going to have to invest either money into a training programs for them, mentorship, some level of coaching, or I'm going to be providing that for them myself personally and making sure that I'm giving them one-on-ones. I'm teaching them how to use Google Sheets and Google Drives and technology and all the other things that I'm going to expect a good manager to do. You have to know that it's going to be an investment of time.
Yep. And
I have attempted to move certain people into certain roles and had to demote them later on because they were not a good fit.
How'd that work out for you?
Subtly promote someone over the top of them that actually is my real operations manager. And I'm like, oh, they're the director of operations now, play with titles. You have to be cautious in going that approach. And I'm very pro, hey, lift people up, promote them up, ascend them up. But there's a lot of people that just use that as an excuse to not do the effort of going and finding someone that actually would be a good fit for that role. And we don't want to excuse the diligence of doing something that's really, really important for the business, which is to get the right person in that seat.
Remember business early on. Remember first building, your first cleaning business that you sold. Remember back every SOP, every training program, obviously you had that, but it was all manual. And it's crazy now with the power of AI, you've got the power to create a system or a process. I created a 7-page payables document a few weeks ago in 20 seconds after I typed in what I wanted, just because we've made some mistakes on how we pay our vendors. And I said, man, I didn't think I should type this into a AI program to create this. But remember back how much work it was to create an SOP. And now that's right at your fingertips. But what's not, one of the things that AI is not replacing are leaders of leaders, are people that can build people. And I think there's no greater God-given gift than that of leading people, whether that's in our household, that's leading employees. Talk about a stewardship as leading people, and it's hard. And that's the thing, is people want to hide behind, well, I'm great at building processes, which is great, but anybody can build a process now. Anybody can build a process now, but the ability to lead and cultivate and develop people, if you can gain that gift or that knowledge, you will be able to name your price tag down the road. Or if you're an owner and 100%. You're wondering how to get those people, you cannot pay enough to people that can redevelop people, because that's the superpower now. It's not building processes. It's not creating employee handbooks. If you need that, send me a Starbucks gift card for $5. I'll write you a whole employee handbook, because I won't actually do it. I'll just type it in and I'll send it to you. But so many owners now that are we had a lot of businesses that started during the pandemic. So if you remember, think back to the pandemic days, we had so many businesses that got started during the pandemic. And during the pandemic, it was what I call the gold rush. So you could literally just answer your phone and there was a sale on the other side of it, ready to go, easy. You can build. But the last couple years, it's not like that anymore. And now, it's the same kind of thing. People can players can almost kind of name their price. They can, it's a lot harder to find that A talent. It's also a lot harder to find the clients to just build a business and post on your social media pages, and the work's just flooding in like it used to. So it's a whole different world now. But thinking about you when you're developing, I want to talk about sales professionals and people that are, or even recruiters, because recruiting is sales at the end of the day. Thinking about the first who, then what? Because a lot of, you're writing your business plan out. Like, hey, I'm gonna launch HireBus, and this is the what. But then it's like, oh crap, I've got to hire some great people to run that. So if you were flipping that and you were doing a first who, then what process, first who, then what process, what would be kind of the order of operations for you for selecting the people before you were putting them in the roles or in the department or building that structure? What would your process look like in selecting the people?
I would say that the main process that I would be looking for is trying to first write out exactly what their roles and responsibilities are, and then making sure that my job ad is actually attracting that kind of person. And this is a big thing that I think a lot of people really struggle with, and where they get it wrong most of the time is that they publish these written HR type-esque job descriptions for their ads. And it's not a job description. It's an ad. It's an advertisement.
They don't even type them anymore. It's just a copy and paste from the GPT they got it from.
Yeah, and it lacks personality, it lacks character. It doesn't speak to the ideal person.
Going back to talking about taking the people to building the people that are going to be developing the people. I feel like we jumped over that a little bit. When you're looking for the lead person that you feel that person is going to have the gift of being able to develop other people. First, quick little story. I have a guy that I've been mentoring for a few years, and on one of our calls a few weeks ago, he talked about wanting to put one of his lead foremen into like an ops manager role. And my question was not that guy had the competency to be a kick butt lawn foreman, but my question was how many people has he developed as a result of being in that role? And the answer was like, well, nobody, but I think he'd be better leading a department versus, leading a crew. And I'm thinking to myself, if you can't lead one or two people on a crew, how are you going to be, an ops manager being the leader of leaders? But for you, what would you say would be like 3 to 5 kind of scorecard metrics or standards that you would require for key seats that you were looking to fill from people that were in the business that people wanted to say promote into like that number 2 spot or, some form of operations manager role that would be not necessarily performance in the field side, but performance where you would trust them to be the leader of leaders?
I mean, I mentioned a couple of them that I feel like applies. And yeah, there's the compliance side, making sure, but their ability to be able to create somebody else, being more of that coach, being more of that servant heart mindset. And then, the day of AI, don't you want an operations manager who's going to be responsible for creating your SOPs and your processes to know quite a bit about AI and to be able to know what good SOPs and processes look like and to be able to understand technology? The first operations manager that was my technician that I promoted into operations manager, he had never used Google Sheets before. He had never used Microsoft Excel. So I had to teach him all these skill sets that were kind of like Office 101. And so, generating reports, being able to have a good financial acumen and understanding. My operations manager had to report on the gross margin, and he was incentivized and bonus structured on the gross margin of our business each month. And if he has no idea how to read a P&L, okay, well, there's another thing that I have to teach him and I have to train him and I have to kind of coach him on. So this is kind of that trade-off between I can hire someone who's already a professional operations manager, who has years in experience, has actually taken a business from 2 million to 10 million, and they've managed a team of 50 people. And I'm going to bring that person in and have them run operations, or I want to take this technician that's never used Google Sheets before, never, done any technology, doesn't know any of this stuff, has never managed anyone. I want to like promote him up. It's just like understanding the constraints and the extra demand it's going to be created on you as the owner. You can do it, but you have to weigh that into the mix as you make that decision to ascend someone up into that role. And he's already going to be an A player, like as far as mission and values and culture fit goes. He's certainly an A player as a technician. Does not mean he's going to be an A player as an operations manager or as a salesperson. He might be a C player if you move him into that role. Do you have the capacity and the ability to train him to be an A player as far as skills and performance goes in that role? You certainly can invest that time and energy into doing it, but weigh all that out before you make that decision to promote them up.
If you guys haven't picked up on it in the last, 35 minutes of listening to Brandon share his heart and passion behind HireBus, everything that Brandon is talking about reminds me of when, I'm explaining to you guys why I love the HireBus platform so much and why it is so crucial to, even if it's not the final reason why you necessarily hire somebody, but just to learn the fundamentals or the behaviors or the personalities behind the whole right person, right seat. And I want to kind of transition into HireBus because I honestly could have did this whole episode could have been just about like reading different HireBus assessments. And I know even for me, because I was a skeptic, I think everybody's a skeptic at first, but when I read my own HireBus assessment, I was like, dude, this is almost freaky. But I believe in it, and like I wouldn't put my name on it or sign on that line or refer another person of the hundreds I've sent over if it wasn't something I believed in it with the whole right person, right seat. And I've got multiple stories within Atlas pre-HireBus where we had somebody that was a fit for our mission and our values, but they really just weren't performing in the role they were in. And thankfully, we were wise enough to try them in another department. And some of them in that department went from being, an apprentice or a crew member, not a laborer, to a lead, to now they're serving in operational roles or whatever it was. And thankfully, we didn't promote them to another company before we gave them a shot, but we knew there was the values alignment the value match that was there. And it's crazy if you look at the benchmarks of like in our industry, and I know most of our listeners here in the community, they're from the landscape industry because that's where I'm at. But even when we got set up with HireBus to kind of benchmark the first, lawn maintenance role or landscape role or lead technician role, when we were kind of building those frameworks out and those assessments out, you could see the difference in behaviors behind different roles from somebody that might love the kind of mundane or monotonous task of cutting grass every day to somebody that does better on like a project crew. And I've watched the wrong person in the right seat so many times cost companies way more than what their salary is, whether it's like the morale, the rework, the leadership whiplash of the back and forth. And so, I want to touch on that for a second, kind of, and give a plug to HireBus and kind of where your heart and mind was behind that. But can you kind of describe what your framework is for calculating what is the true cost of keeping somebody in the wrong seat for too long, and how do you use that cost to make the decisions faster to maybe move them around in the business? And I know you're going to say I just run them through HireBus, but don't just give yourself a big HireBus plug there. Think deeper for a second, because you didn't always have HireBus. So what was kind of the mindset behind that?
Well, I mean, there's lots of statistics and studies that have been done on the cost of putting the wrong person in the wrong seat. Way before me, way before HireBus, and conservative estimates are that it costs you 15 times what someone's annual salary is in lost revenue, lost opportunity cost by putting someone, especially in a leadership position, in the wrong seat for even a year. Now that feels like a ton, and it is a ton. And the reason for that is, if you have someone, like just to give you a really light example, in the hardscaping industry, I have seen people that sell $500,000 a year in sales. I have also seen people that have sold $6 million a year in sales. Now, crazy thing is same commission structure. The person who makes the commission on 500 grand worth of sales is, making 60K a year, maybe, like fully loaded. And then you have someone else that's making, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in sales. And the commission structure is similar. Like the cost to just hire the wrong salesperson and to tolerate a bad salesperson that can't close, that doesn't go out and generate their own work, that doesn't look for upsell opportunity, doesn't look for enhancements, doesn't look for, they just don't go and like do the thing. They don't have that aggression. They don't have that proactivity. They don't have high criticality. They're always coming saying, hey boss, can we give a discount to this job or this customer? They're a realtor. They're going to give us tons of money if we just give them a discount on their personal house. It's like, how many times you've heard that as a salesperson? A bad salesperson, they just will waste so much of your potential in capacity, and a bad technician can also waste a tremendous amount of your capacity. And when someone turns over, it can easily cost your business, $20,000 plus to just turn over one single technician, even an apprentice, because you deal with culture impact, lost revenue, damages. You can't book as much on a brand new greenhorn as you can on someone who's experienced, that already like knows the route and is like really kind of locked in. So all these impacts that happen on the cost of hiring someone bad, it's very, very substantial. And the biggest reason why I founded HireBus and went out and found this assessment was specifically because there's these other, great culture index style behavioral assessments that work extremely well. They're just very, very cost prohibitive to give every single candidate before you interview them an assessment. Whereas what I wanted the same kind of style that has the same quality caliber of predictive understanding and behavioral understanding to be given at the candidate level. So that way, you could see who this person is before, at least their behaviors, before you even take the time to actually interview them and get them, brought in. So it definitely is a big critical component, is looking at data more than just, do I like this person? I think everyone's awesome. And so when I interview someone, I look for all the reasons why I should hire them and why I can help them.
I was literally writing a note.
He's got a DUI, but it's okay. I'll have him go right along with Jonathan.
He's got a felony for assault and battery, and I'm like, the other person probably deserved it. It shouldn't have been running their mouth.
Yeah,
I'm looking for everything.
He needs coaching. He needs life leadership. He's going to thrive here. It's like, I got another project, another lost puppy to nurture.
Gold. I literally wrote that down in my notes of, to figure out like what is the true cost of losing somebody. And we could literally end the episode right there, because just that one question, I think people are going to get their value worth out of listening to this. This is a question that far too many owners avoid, because like you said, we like everybody. I'm a firm believer that that trust is given, distrust is earned, but it's a question that we avoid it because we're busy, or like you said, we'll tell ourselves, oh, give them a little more time and they'll turn the corner and things will get better. But bottom line, it typically doesn't. But this is like the $1 million question for you. How long do you think somebody should be kept in the position when they're not performing? And it's kind of a double question. And then kind of like, what milestones or kind of like prove it windows do you use before deciding that you're going to promote them to another company?
Ask yourself, would I hire this person again? If I was to do it all over again, would I hire them again? If your answer is no, you've kept them too long. Period. It doesn't matter who it is in your team. You've kept them too long. Now, you've kept them too long. Your gut told you shouldn't have. You wouldn't have hired this person if you were to do it all over again. Like, why are they there? And for me, I will use PIPs, performance improvement plans, where I sit down, or my managers or my team leaders will sit down with a person and they'll say, here's your written job description Here's all the KPIs that you're supposed to be hitting. Here's your KPIs, what you're hitting. You see the gap here? This is a 2-week, 30-day performance improvement plan that I'm going to walk you through that's going to show how you get back onto plan. And we're going to support you and we're going to coach you and we're going to work with you. And I'm going to be checking in with you daily and checking in with you weekly to make sure that you get back on plan. Otherwise, you do not have a future here at this company. Now, there's cases for why you should do that. If someone's genuinely a good culture fit and maybe you believe that there's something that you failed them on like the training side of it and they just needed more attention. But if it's a cancer, if it's someone that's not a good culture fit, if you wouldn't hire them had you to do it all over again, you need to let those people go. You need to fire fast and hire slow. The problem is that most owners panic hire because they have no proactive recruiting process. And when they don't think about hiring someone until there's an opening on their team. Well, when there's an opening on your team, how many thousands of dollars a day are you losing by not having that person in seat? Of course, you're going to try to hire someone as fast as humanly possible. We get all these people all the time coming to us like, I need to hire someone to, yesterday because he just no called me. And how fast can you get someone? And I'm like, well, how much garbage are you willing to put up with? It's a volume consideration. You need to hire slow. The only way that you do that is by proactively hiring all the time, always being hiring, always taking interviews, and then you can top grade, and you can be firing people, you can be letting people go on the team. It's all performance driven. It's all data driven. And you're playing the swapperoo game. The person that's on the bottom of the totem pole of your leaderboard that you have, it's clear. They know that they're getting fired long before you even have the conversation. Like no one should be surprised that they're getting fired. And the only way you can ensure that is you set all those expectations up front and they have live feedback systems on whether they're hitting those or they aren't hitting those. And there's no surprise. Like, yeah, they saw it coming. And then it's easy to swap people and have those conversations. But please don't wait so long. Like, don't put up with it.
Everybody,
don't put up with cancer.
You hear Martell talk about this a lot. When there's problems in a business, he says it's two things. It's either a people problem or it's a process problem. And I've kind of flipped that a little bit and said, well, if it is, and I've used the same thing, Brandon, I know you've used the same thing. Is it a people problem or a process problem? But if it is a process problem, isn't that kind of a people problem? I mean, how do you kind of, you think about that, like, because who created that process, right? So my question for you.
Well, I think if it's a process problem, it's the owner's problem.
True.
If it's a people problem, it's the employee.
Unless you have a leadership team who's supposed to be developing processes, which then that's a person.
That's a person problem.
So it's
at the end of the day, it all falls on you as the owner.
Amen to that. And so and on that note, if someone is underperforming, how do you determine whether or not it's a people problem or a process problem, a people problem, or a leadership problem? How would you kind of determine which one it is so you know where to attack first?
I'm a big fan of performance reviews. I'm a big fan of doing them with brand new employees at the 1 week mark, at the 30-day mark, and then the 60-day mark, the 90-day mark, and then going to 3 months later and then getting on like a cadence of regular scheduled performance reviews. And in these performance reviews, they're especially critical at the beginning. And the questions that you ask are, what can we do to make your job easier? Are there parts of this job that you're not comfortable with? How do you feel like I could be a better leader or manager for you? Like what could I do to support you more and help you out more? You'd be amazed at at just how those simple questions and really intentional sit downs will illuminate processes and systems and issues in your company that you're like, how come no one ever told me this before? Like, well, it's because your employees have just put up with the crap for long. It's like, yeah, it's just how it's always done here. And they're just kind of accepted the fact that this is just janky process. But like new employees can be a fantastic catalyst for change. And, they don't mind being blunt. They don't mind saying things because it's like they don't know any better. And they're like, hey, this feels weird, or I wish I had this, or, this is kind of tough, or this is kind of hard. And when you're intentional about that, you'll expose a lot of process issues. And being curious as a leader, asking more questions than you tell, All of those things go towards being able to really easily identify if this is a people problem or it's a process problem. And having a culture where people are actually transparent and they're not afraid to speak up because they know that you care, they know that you will enact change and that you will make sure that they get taken care of when they bring up issues. All those things lend to, people just supporting the company a little bit better and, pointing out those issues, and the people process dilemma is, clear. It's not a challenge to understand why you should do what you should do.
Absolute gold. If there's an owner or a middle leader that's listening right now and like everything that you've touched on is like resonating with them, and they're like, man, I know that I've got some good people, but they're in the wrong seats. Like it's speaking right to their soul. But the thing is that they just don't know where to start. They don't know what the next move would be to try to get them in the right seats and the right people in the right seats. What would you give to our community here that would be like a 30-day and like a 60-day kind of playbook to reevaluate, realign, and kind of get things on the right track without literally blowing up their business in the process?
The thing that I would give them is a performance review sheet that would just be like a document or a tool that gives them a framework of how to perform a performance review. And the other thing that I'd probably give them is a TV scoreboard that allows them to place a 85-inch flat screen TV up in their offices that lists all of their key employees like technicians, apprentices, salespeople, what the company's revenue goals are and targets for the month, and actually having that live update. How many 5-star reviews, how many callbacks and fix-its there were for which crews, and and then sorting that and keeping it live. It's interesting. We take screenshots of those leaderboards and we post them inside of our channels, right into the technician channel every day. And every day people check it and they look at it. And it's like, it's still on our big flat screen TVs, but like we drop it into the channel so everyone can see it. And, the tech sees themselves at the bottom place. What do you think that they're already thinking? They like, they know that it's coming. So it's like the cadence of having to wait 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. Oftentimes those issues immediately get percolated up, and their production manager or someone is having a conversation like, hey, by the way, I'm noticing this number is getting kind of low. Like, how can I support you? I want to see you first place. What do you need? How can I help you? I don't want you to be on bottom place, just like you don't want to be in bottom place. What do you need? And that opens up more natural conversations for them to say, well, I'm stuck because of X, Y, Z. Yep. And then you can now address it. So just being curious, asking questions, and being a leader that asks more than tells, I think is a real critical component.
Be a leader that asks more than tells. Like such a powerful thing. And every single question that, we've kind of walked through here and talked about, the right people, the right seats, how long you keep people around, when is it the leader's fault versus when is it the employee's fault? Like, none of that we're talking about is theory. Like, it's literally been lived out, whether it's, promoting the wrong person too fast or kept the right person in the wrong seat for too long. And I know for me, like, I've had to look in the mirror and realize, like, the problem that employee is having, it's not them, it's me. And I'm all too often, so many people that are listening to this, they've never even given their team members a performance eval. And then, it gets too late and we've got to promote them to another company. And then when you sit the person down, how crappy do you feel as the leader when the person was like, I didn't even know that I was failing? And so just defining what that looks like, the problem isn't them. It's actually, it's me, it's you, it's the leader's fault. And, those people decisions, like, those are heavy. They're never clean. But if we can get them right, if we can get the right people in the right seats, I mean, just think about how much healthier the team can be, how much lighter the business feels, and how we can create. Somebody said to me the other day that what what wears our teams out is whiplash, like the front, back, front, back. But if those metrics aren't shared, or if we don't know what the right people, right seat looks like, then everything is just a constant fire drill. So
Right.
that's what we're trying to get away from. So before we kind of wrap this episode up on a heavy note, I kind of want to shift gears a little bit, and I got some lightning round things, Brandon, that I want to just
Let's do
fire
it.
your way. I know we've talked strategy, we've talked systems, so I just want to have a little fun. So just short answers. Don't overthink this, but this is just something for people that are like getting a behind the curtain view of how Brandon Vaughn leads. Man, so if I get too personal, just say pass. But I don't think that we will. So, what do you think is one book that every leader has to read?
Oh, one?
Just
Dang
one,
it.
one book, one book.
Like four came into mind. First one I would say is
I'll give
How
you
to
two
Win-
then.
Okay, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And because I was thinking about it when we were just talking about this, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. That one's a kick you in the teeth book.
Okay, what are the other two? I have to, because those two are phenomenal. So let's go ahead. You said you had four. What are the other
I
two?
said I had two. Did I say four? Dang it.
You said I had four. Those two, I think, though, especially when you're trying the How to Win Friends and Influence People, Extreme Ownership, I think that's a book that I think you've had to been in it for a little bit and made some mistakes for that book to really resonate with you. If you're a new leader, I think Extreme Ownership could almost scare people off, because you gotta we did Extreme Ownership as a group study as a team.
Oh, I thought that was fun.
Dude, it hit that hands down, great book. Okay. Big one for you, because I know your health and wellness routine has like hit a level 5 the last couple years. What's your favorite cheat meal?
Ooh, spicy mac and cheese.
Spicy mac and cheese. I never would have thought that, but it's you said it quick, so we know that that was already on your mind. What is your
Lots of
ideal-
protein, lots of meat in it too.
Lots of protein and spicy mac and cheese. What does your morning routine look like?
I wake up at between 6 and 6:30. I set my phone in my bathroom so that the alarm goes off and I have to physically get out of bed. Otherwise, I'm lazy. I stay in bed. I go and I turn it off. I'm really groggy. I immediately get in the shower and I turn the water onto cold and I take a cold shower. To just I rub my eyes, I get all the sleep out of my eyes, and I just embrace the full freezing cold. Freezing, I put in quotes. It's his first world freezing. But get a cold shower and then go and work out. I have a home gym, so I work out from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Come back down to the house, make breakfast, get things kind of going. And then usually I don't start my actual work day until 9 o'clock. I have to put my phone on what I call beast mode, which is a routine that actually locks my phone down of all my other apps, including email, text messages, Slack. And I set this routine where it locks all my apps so that while I work out, I don't get distracted with work too early while I'm resting between sets. And try to work out 5 to 6 days a week in the mornings during the week.
That's great. I just made a note of the app beast mode, because I think a lot of
It's
people.
not an app. It's literally on Android phones. I'm an Android user. Don't hate me. Don't
Sorry
kill me.
to hear that.
But routines is also what Apple has. You can set up. It's called modes in Android, and you can create a custom mode or custom routine where during a certain hour or certain time it'll shut off certain apps and only allow certain apps or certain contacts to be contacted. So I have my app basically go dark, except for my tasks, so I can write down to-dos if I think about them, or texts or phone calls from my emergency contacts.
Next level. What would you say is one habit that has had I capitalize the biggest impact on your leadership?
Oh, leadership. I thought you were going to say my life, I was going to say my walking treadmill. I would say one habit, definitely reading books. Definitely reading books has been the biggest impact to my leadership specifically, because I do believe that leaders are readers, and that's what I've heard said before. Sounds good to me. So anytime I've read something, I always leave with good epiphany moments, and those books especially, have made a profound impact.
It's good. What is something that people would learn about you that they would be surprised?
That I'm not as busy as I think people think that I am. I think that, people are like, wow, you own all these different businesses. You just must be like a workaholic. I think people will be surprised that, I work from 9 to 5. I don't work on weekends. And if you kind of like do the math with a 1 hour lunch break, that's a little bit less than 40 hours a week.
Yep.
It stretches, obviously. And there's times in evenings and weekends when I'm, texting people or I'm just getting excited and I love to work. Work doesn't feel like work. But by and large, like I work from home all the time. And then when I travel, I like to bring at least one of my family members, if not the whole family, whenever we go travel. So
he's not lying.
Oklahoma City, took my daughter, went to Cabo, took my wife. It's like anytime I get an opportunity to, I like to bring the family with me.
Oh, that's great. That's absolute goal. I like to say that I live an integrated life. So from the outside view, you don't know if I'm playing or if I'm working because I love what I do. And same thing. I tell people we have, 120 team members and they're like, dude, screw that, man. Stay small, keep it all. And like, I think now that I've worked so hard to build people that I definitely work less. And again, but it all comes back to the integrated life. What is for you, what is the hardest season of business or leadership that you've had to lead through?
Oh,
be vulnerable here, man. We're all family. The hardest season.
I mean, I only one. I mean, right now there's 3+ that are coming to mind. One of the toughest I would say is when I had an employee that I cared deeply for. I felt like I really wanted this. I invested in this person. I let them, I give them draws. I would let them use the vehicles for personal reasons. I really cared deeply about this person a lot. And I also cared about another person deeply in my company. And I got, kind of stabbed in the back, it felt like, to where afterwards there was, it kind of ended, the relationship ended ugly. And it really, really, really shocked me and hurt me to see two people that I cared deeply about, respond in the way that they did towards me. And it made me question my value as a human, as a man, as a leader, as a boss. Mega imposter syndrome sets in when you kind of have to lead through there. So not only do you have to like weather that storm, but then you also have to like show up with a really good face that everything's fine and everything's good. I've been through so many seasons where, everything was just kind of on the precipice of all falling apart. Even during Conquer, like when COVID happened, it was devastating. It was so hard. And I had to show up on calls and be like, all right, let's talk PPP and EIDL. And I was doing daily support calls and all of my Conquer clients were freaking out. And meanwhile, like people are putting on pause and they're canceling their subscription. And I'm like, am I going to make payroll? And it's like leading through those times where you just still show up and you just serve. That has always got me to weather those storms, is just like, all right, what's the next step? Things will turn around, and they do. You just got to trust the process.
I'm going to 100% end it on that note because I think you just nailed it. And so many people will resonate with that. And so Brandon, I cannot thank you enough for adding value to our community today. It was worth the wait for me to see your name on the checklist of guests that I will be humbled and honored to have here one day. So thank you so much for adding value to the community. If people want to find you or learn more about HireBus for themselves, like I know you have an incredible team, so I don't want to direct people, directly to you. But if people want to just learn more about you or maybe check out what this whole HireBus thing that we keep talking about is all about, where is the best place for them to find you?
Well, I think there's kind of like two things. I think the first thing that I would like is for, if people want to learn more about HireBus, if they go to hirebus.com/cultureproof. You can hop on a call with myself, one of our recruiters, and we have a shared calendar where we hop on and we just walk people through the platform and show, here's how we can help you find A-player talent, the top 3% without you having to write job ads. We've done amazing things in the AI forefront that I'm really proud of and excited about. Our new version of HireBus is better than anything we've had before. So maybe you looked at it in the past. It's different now, I promise you. So definitely go check out that. But I also have a free gift for people if they'd like. The link, I'm going to spell it out, bit.ly, so bit.ly, and you'll put a slash after that, and then culture-proof-growth. And this is a tool that I have given to a lot of people. It kind of looks, this is like a blown up version of this. I had it fully like printed out. So if you're listening, you won't be able to see what I'm showing you. But it's basically a full-blown growth plan that you can create in 30 seconds for the year to show, here's where I'm looking to grow, here's how many people I need to bring onto my team. But also what comes with there is a packet of written job descriptions, or what we call role blueprints, for every single position inside of a landscaping, hardscaping, like $20 million business. And a lot of people just like, they don't know, like, okay, great, you've been talking about KPIs and roles and responsibilities, but this is my gift to you to be able to have written ones. No matter what industry you pick, you'll have a whole packet of every position inside of a $20 million business for you to, read or implement or, go find. So little free gift for people, but definitely reach out with us, search me up on Instagram and say, hey, drop a note, be happy to talk to you.
Dude, for one, I will drop that link in the show notes here. So when you guys I'll drop that link in there. So I'll make sure I get that from you. You're always adding value. Every time I talk to you, have had a chance to distract you from, we were at a conference once and I think you were having lunch and I was like, do I go up and start asking Brandon questions? And you're always just so humble about, what you've created and you're always just make yourself available to just act like there's nobody else in the room but, myself or whoever it is that you're talking to. And then you're awesome. And I appreciate that. And the free gift. So take advantage of that. And I will die on the mountain that every single applicant that comes through our 100+ team at Atlas, they all get filtered through the HireBus platform. And so you guys have heard me talk about the platform on these episodes before. But now here's your chance to get a behind the curtain peek at it, to see how it can work for you. If you want to be challenged, do it for yourself as a business owner or as a leader. You might be humble to see what it comes up with. But thank you, Brandon. And as we kind of wrap this up, I just want you to sit with this kind of takeaway for a moment. If all of us were perfect, if I were perfect, if Brandon was perfect, if you were perfect, if all of us were perfect, if leadership in our businesses just came natural, if people always just landed in the right seats the second we brought them into our organization, podcasts like this wouldn't exist. But the reality is that every one of you, every leader listening right now to this episode, you're all in the process. Every business, no matter what stage you're at, every leader, no matter what stage you're at, I don't care if you're a level 1 leader or a level 5 leader, we're a work in progress. It doesn't matter. And every single people decision that we make, it comes with weight. They all come with weight. But here's the win. Today, on this Culture Proof episode with my friend Brandon Vaughn on the other side, unbelievable guest, you got a little bit better today. Maybe you saw a seat in your business that you need to reevaluate, or maybe you realize that you've been too patient for too long with dealing with B players, or maybe you're not being patient enough and you just have to admit that something that you've been frustrated by is just something that you haven't been clear with as a leader. And just being aware that that something needs to change, that's how growth starts. So around here, I believe, Brandon believes, every leader I know believes in something deeply. And that's when we as leaders get better, when our teams get better and our businesses get healthier, our families, the ones that are truly the closest to us, they feel it, they know it. And they're like, man, there's something different about, my dad or my mom or whatever it is. And I'm a firm believer that when we as leaders get better, we all get to move forward together. So don't forget that. So thank you for spending time with us today. Thank you for doing the work. And thank you for being a part of the Culture Proof community. We do not take that lightly. We'll see you guys on the next one.